What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest edition of WWE Table for 3 called Omega Men, with the original Omega founders, the brainchild behind Omega, the promotion that is, Matt and Jeff Hardy, as well as Hurricane Shane Helms. By the way, before we get started here, I'm currently in London as I record this. I recorded a ton of content before I left just yesterday, early Monday morning, but I am currently in where we're staying in London. I just watched Table for 3. I stayed back tonight, not just to watch Table for 3, but just because we came in at midnight last night, and it was fucking unbelievable. So I went out this morning. I had to go get adapters. I completely forgot that Europe had different adapters, like charger, like for outlets and stuff, ports, than the States do, than America does. So I had to go out and do that this morning, go get food. So it was a long, early day today, so I figured I'd stay back and watch Table for 3, which I completely forgot about until earlier today, and thought I would review it as well because I brought my mic along with me like the fucking mark that I am, like the fucking workhorse, like the workhorse I try to be. And not only that, too, but I'm currently recording this in the flat that we're staying in. So if it sounds like echoey in the background, that's why. They don't really have like an office-esque room in here. They have the bedroom, but there's nowhere to sit down and record this video. So I figured I would just do it in the open space that we have. And again, if it sounds echoey, I apologize. But let's get started here with this Table for 3 called Omega Men from Matt and Jeff Hardy and Shane Helms. Great to see Shane Helms, by the way, on a WWE promoted episode, whatever, an episode of WWE programming, because we don't really see much on WWE TV. He's currently a backstage producer, which gives me hope that at some point we could see Abyss on one of these things, maybe with Jeremy Borash and like Jeff Jarrett or something like that, talking about TNA. They've talked about TNA here before on Table for 3, so I was really happy they brought up like the Broken stuff, which we'll talk about soon enough. But we saw the Hurricane in what was it, the 2018 Royal Rumble match, and I don't know if he's been on TV since. Maybe in like a producer-esque role, like breaking up a brawl or something like that. And I think he is slated to be on Raw next week, now that I think about it, on the Raw reunion show, which is cool. But anyway, Helms says, or Jeff Hardy and Matt bring up how Helms was a big part of WrestleMania 35, that he was backstage for the show. Matt talks about the early origins of his wrestling career, and Jeff's as well, in Omega, how that promotion got started. Shane said he was always fascinated, right around the time that he met Matt and Jeff, that he was always fascinated and impressed that the Hardys had their own company, and that they not only had their own company, but that they ran everything, they brought in all the talent themselves, booked everything, did everything themselves at a very early age. Matt talked about how we met a Carney years and years ago, and how it was through the relationship with this Carney, whose name escapes me right now. I didn't write it down. I didn't really make out what Matt said, but they met this Carney that they used for their shows. They used his ring. So Matt, being very resourceful with who he had, or not who he had, but rather who he knew, and kind of making the most of what they had. All the connections that he had really paid off in the end. But he ended up buying the ring from this Carney dude, and that was the ring that they used for their Omega promotion. And then they tell this great story about Manny Fernandez, a name I know I've heard before, but I don't think he was ever a big name anywhere, at least in the promotions like WCW, NWA, unless I'm mistaken. I know the name sounds familiar, but anyway, they tell this great story about Manny Fernandez, where Manny told Shane, who wasn't really involved with Omega, but he was enough to the point where like he was close with Matt and Jeff. Manny told Shane, hey, I'm booked for Omega, even though he wasn't. I guess Manny had this gimmick back in the day where he would bully himself on the show, saying, hey, I'm booked, even though he wasn't, just to get a payday, just to get a match, and more importantly, get a payday. So Shane asks Matt about this. He's like, hey, is Manny booked for Omega? And Matt goes, no. So Manny ended up confronting Matt about this, who was, again, the whole promoter, the mastermind behind everything that is Omega. So Manny was notorious for, like I said, bullying his way onto shows, and he tried to do the same thing with Matt. And Jeff, when he saw Manny confront Matt, he was very nervous for Matt, knowing the bully that Manny was. So Manny tried to intimidate him, saying that, I came here for fucking money, I was told, maybe not dropping any F-bombs, but maybe he did, I don't know, they didn't say any here on the show. But he was like, I was told I was supposed to be here, I'm not leaving the show until I'm booked, and Matt, to his credit, stood his ground. He was not I guess he was intimidated, but he didn't show it. He said, listen, I'm not letting you on my show. There was some sort of miscommunication. You're not wrestling here on today's show. So Manny thankfully ended up backing down. He ended up settling for just setting up his own merchandise table. He's like, well, can I at least sell my fucking gimmicks, brother? Which is just hilarious. But, props to Matt for standing his own and, holding his own in that situation and ensuring that Manny did not bully himself onto the show. Bully his way onto the show, I should say. But anyway, Matt talked about how Omega gave the Hardys practice, not only inside the ring, but just running their own business. Gave them a lot of responsibilities a lot of 20-year-olds would never have. So it was a big part of their careers early on before they ever made it to WWE. And they give credit to Italian Stallion, who I guess helped them out a lot in their early Omega days and getting matches with WWE. The Hardys talk about wrestling those early matches with WWE on Superstars, on Raw in the early 90s. And he said, it was a bit of a trade-off because Omega was great booking her own stuff, but with WWE, we get to be talent. We get to be in there in this company that we grew up watching and just admire the storytelling. In WWE, it's all about the storytelling. Sometimes the wrong type of storytelling, especially nowadays, but back then, all about the storytelling, getting from point A to point B with these two individuals in a feud. And the Hardys always admired that. So Shane was very excited for Matt and Jeff when they ended up getting a contract with WWE in the mid to late 90s. I think late 90s. They were wrestling for WWE throughout the 90s as enhancement guys, but I don't think they were fully signed to a deal until like 98, 99 when the whole feud with Edge and Christian started. And he said it was always cool for him, for Shane, that they were on opposite shows. That he was on Nitro with 3 Count, and that they were on Raw as the Hardy Boys. And he always wanted the match between the two teams, and never really ended up happening. But they do talk about like the ladder matches they had in the late 90s, how the Hardy Boys kind of kicked that off with Edge and Christian, and then later the Dudley Boys. And then WCW, always trying to rival WWE, started doing their own ladder matches with 3 Count because they were, WWE was having their North Carolinian, is that the right word to use? North Carolinian? I guess it is. I don't know. Their North Carolina natives face off in ladder matches, so why not WCW? So they had Shane Helms do the exact same thing in WCW, I believe, as part of 3 Count. And they talk about the Attitude Era, how it was just a completely different time back then. And Shane Helms even brings up, which I completely agree with, he goes, the crowds were so fucking nuts back then, but you go back and watch the shows 20 years later, they aren't as good as you remember. And I know that's the case with a lot of things, but like the Attitude Era sucked in a lot of respects, and I think a lot of people like to gloss over that. Shane Helms even talked about how when he was brought into WWE after the buyout from WCW in the early 2000s, his first feud was with the Hardys. And maybe he was talking about like around the Hurricane time, like in 2003. I don't think so, though. I think it was in 2001 because we're shown footage of Shane facing, I think, Matt on an episode of SmackDown in 2001. So I think that's what he was talking about. But he also talks about this one segment that he had on Raw in like 2003, right around the time that he started doing the whole Hurricane thing, where he confronted Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Vince's director for the segment was like, yeah, grab the fruit on the way in, grab a banana, and on the way out of the segment, grab an apple. I was like, dude, what the fuck? And he just, shares this amazing Vince story that you'll hear nowhere else. And Shane also talks about, he praises Matt for the transition from Big Money Matt, which is, he was doing in Ring of Honor for a time years ago, but also in Impact. I think a lot of people forget about that. Big Money Matt was also in Impact for a very short period of time in like early 2016. He went heel in January, winning the TNA World title, dropped the world title, and that's when Broken Matt Hardy began. But that was really like a 2-month period that he was Broken Matt Hardy for, because a lot of people only started to watch Impact again around the time that he became broken. But he talked about that transition and how Matt was always more of a wrestler and how people kind of looked forward to Matt Hardy for his matches and not his promos. But that was a complete 180, or a complete 180 when, when Broken Matt started. With Broken Matt, it was all about the promos and a lot less about the matches. Matt said that he wanted to come up with a persona that was more entertainment-based and a lot less focused on the actual matches, especially as they get older and they're not really capable of as much as they were years ago, which I think is very, very smart. Helms said that, he made it cool. He made it cool to have like the yellow streak in his hair and talk all ridiculous like and all this other shit. He made it really cool to have that gimmick. He makes everything, he makes the most of everything he's given, whether it's the V1er stuff or Broken Matt or Big Money Matt or whatever his character is. Matt Hardy always makes the most of whatever he's put in. And Shane recognized that and gave Matt props for that here. Even Jeff chimed in. He said the Brother Nero thing was really cool. He said the Broken Universe was very creative. He still gets Brother Nero chants to this day, being on the road and all, especially when Matt isn't around. Matt called it a very nice change of pace, and he said wrestling, he thought when he created that character, wrestling should be more of a variety show. Not just all about the matches, but not like all promo-based either. It should be a little bit of everything, as long as it's entertaining. I think it doesn't really matter. And that's exactly what the Broken stuff was. Extremely entertaining, at least in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree. Matt thought, he actually said here, and I completely agree with this, that he thought that he and Bray Wyatt should have had more off-site shoots. They showed footage of the Ultimate Deletion, which was great, but I think he means by that, I think he's talking about their tag team. And I might be mistaken, but I think it would have been really cool if we saw more of Matt and Bray while they were Raw Tag Team Champions, like outside of WWE, because I was very disappointed. I was very excited when they won the belts, thinking, okay, we can get more stuff of the Hardy compound with Bray and Matt, like maybe playing with Maxwell or something. But when they became Tag Team Champions, I was very disappointed after the fact, because all they did was wrestle like squash matches on the show. All they did was face like the fucking Ascension and do this and that. It was so, disappointing. It was very underwhelming. But that was just like one-off comment that he made. I don't think that was ever really elaborated on, but I would love to hear more of his thoughts on that. Maybe not now that he's still in WWE, but maybe down the road if he feels that WWE dropped the ball with the Bray and Matt tag team as much as I think they did. Anyway, Helms even said, they mentioned TNA here because they were talking about the Broken stuff, like while it was in TNA, not really the WWE stuff. Except for that one comment that Matt just made about, the tag team with Bray Wyatt. Shane Helms even said TNA didn't have a budget, which is so true because they had like no money at that point. He said that TNA didn't have a budget, and then the Hardys spent a lot of their own money with those segments, which does not surprise me at all. Matt talked a lot about how, the Hardy Boys, they funded a lot of that Broken stuff. They even funded episodes of fucking Impact. They funded episodes of Impact where they filmed content on the Hardy compound, which is absolutely amazing. And Hardy used that against Impact when they, kind of were feuding, so to speak. The whole Anthem shit happened, a few years ago. But yeah, no, he's absolutely right. They helped keep TNA afloat for a very, quite a long time there. Maybe not that long, but for at least a year with the Broken stuff. The Hardy stuff and the Broken stuff was really a big reason why people were watching Impact, and they were getting their highest ratings to date on, what were they on at that point? Pop? Destination America? I think it was Pop. But yeah, I just thought it was really funny they brought that up. They even talked about how cool it was for them to throw pumpkins, smash pumpkins literally, with Smashing Pumpkins lead singer Billy Corgan, who was the, I think, creative genius behind Impact for a very short time, but during that point in time when the Broken stuff was going on, Billy Corgan was working very closely with the Hardys and the Broken character, and they got to do that for one of their, tag team Apocalypto things, which is very fucking cool, and they realized that too. Matt said they really hit a grand slam with the House Hardy special, the House Hardy Halloween special that aired, I think, late October, obviously around Halloween time in 2018. I fucking loved it. I talked about the House Hardy special here on Network and Chill at the time that it aired, right around Halloween, if you want to go back and check it out. I was very disappointed they didn't do more of that for like Christmas and other holidays, and it's been almost a year since then. It's been 9 months now, and they have yet to do another one. Matt Hardy actually said that hashtag more House Hardy. That's what people should get trending on Twitter and social media to make WWE realize, like, hey, we should be doing more of this stuff. But he thought it was really cool to have that cast of characters, and they still need to do a sequel because I guess at the end of the last one, which I completely forgot about because I haven't seen it since it aired, 9 months ago, that Hurricane got abducted by like the higher power, and they still need to go save Hurricane. It ended on a cliffhanger. So hopefully, they do another one at some point to follow up on that. Again, I thought they would do a Christmas one. Maybe it was, the timing was too quick because I think they started filming the Halloween one, though, like weeks before it aired. So they don't really need that long of period of time. Like, they don't need months in order to film this shit. Maybe they do. I don't know. But still, I hope they do a sequel at some point, maybe around Christmas time, or hopefully before that with, fucking Labor Day or something. Who knows? Because all the other major holidays have already passed by this point. Anyway, Jeff called the match with the Usos a dream match. Not the match they had on SmackDown. I think this was filmed before that. I think this was filmed over WrestleMania weekend. So they talked about WrestleMania 35 in the past tense, but I got the feeling that maybe this was filmed either the Monday, I don't know, because the Usos match did end up happening on the SmackDown after WrestleMania, 2 days after WrestleMania. Maybe they were talking about Mania in the past tense, even though it had yet to happen at that point. I don't know. But Jeff said he really wanted to face the Usos and maybe film some stuff in like an asylum or a penitentiary, like an actual penitentiary. You know, the Usos talk about that a lot in their promos. Oh, the Uso penitentiary. Like actually film shit in a penitentiary. Like Alcatraz. Shane Helms brought that up here. Because it's not, open as a jail anymore, but they do film, it's still open to the public to do tours and stuff. I toured there once like a dozen years ago. So yeah, he thought it would be really cool to do something at Alcatraz and to build to a match with the Usos. Instead, Jeff was like, oh, we could have a series of matches with them and build up to our first ever encounter. WWE, in typical fashion, fucking threw it out there on a random SmackDown right after WrestleMania with no rematch. No build, no rematch. And it was a great match. And the Hardys became champs, which was cool. But there was no follow-up, no nothing, because the Hardys went to Raw right after that. So I was a little disappointed they didn't do more with that, and they didn't make it a full-fledged feud when they had the chance going into WrestleMania. You had the fucking opportunity, and they dropped the ball. But whatever. And to close out the thing, Shane Helms said that their WrestleMania return, which I was also in attendance for, WrestleMania 33 in Orlando 2 years ago, was one of the loudest pops he has ever heard. And I maintain that to this day. I've seen a lot of awesome shit in person. That is probably it has to be the biggest markout moment for me personally. Seeing the Hardy Boys come back at WrestleMania 33 in person, the greatest thing I still have ever seen in wrestling to this day. And it's still my pinned tweet on Twitter over 2 years later. So that's how much that moment meant to me. And, Matt takes that in stride. He said it becomes more epic the longer we, move away from it. The more time passes, the more epic that moment becomes. And Matt thinks, the more you love this business, the more of a fan that you are of wrestling, the longer you will stick around. And then end the episode, Matt praises Shane as a creative genius, very happy to see him working backstage. And then Shane calls Matt a great friend, a great wrestler, and Jeff is thrown in there too. But yeah, and then Jeff talks about the psychology, how important that is, and how great of a role, Shane is doing in WWE, and how he's kind of incorporating that psychology into matches that he's working on as an agent, stuff like that. But yeah, that was the Omega Men episode of Table for Three with Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, and Shane Helms. Great stuff here. I'm a big fan of all three guys, especially the Hardy Boys, and they've been on Table for Three before. I think once with Finn Balor, once with Edge and Christian, and maybe one other time, but this is at least their third episode of Table for Three, and they always come up with new stuff to talk about. In fact, I think Matt has actually been on 4 episodes, because he was on that social media episode about a year or two ago with Zack Ryder and Xavier Woods. And on all of these episodes, he's talked about the broken stuff, and it just never gets old to see the TNA footage on WWE TV. And I don't know if I don't think they used Impact footage on this episode. I don't think they did. They mentioned TNA. They didn't show any footage, though. They only used footage from WWE. And, Impact, they used to promote their, Global Wrestling Network on the network during these Table for Threes, but they already changed the fucking name to Impact Plus, so does it even matter anymore? So maybe WWE realized that, like, hey, they don't have their shit together yet. We won't work with them at this point, and we won't show any footage. I mean, they didn't really talk about TNA for long, so it wasn't really necessary, but it would have been cool. But nonetheless, this was a very good episode. Be sure to check it out on the network at your leisure. Clocks in at around 19 minutes. And thank you guys for checking out this video. I appreciate it. Again, I apologize for it going up later. It's actually maybe like 5, 6 o'clock by the time you're watching and listening to this on Tuesday, and usually I post episodes a lot sooner. But as I record this, it's 10:30 here in London, and I don't feel the slightest bit tired because my sleep schedule has been all fucked up over the last 2 days since I started traveling early Monday. I don't think I'll be doing more of these network and chills, the original ones anyway. While I'm away, I just kind of struck gold here tonight because I stayed back. My family went out to London to check out a few things like the downtown London where the real stuff is going on. We're kind of on the outskirts of it. But I'll probably keep up with the network stuff. If anything new airs in the next week, I'll watch it and then review it when I get back. I just kind of stayed back tonight because I had other shit I had to do and I was just tired and whatever. I really had no desire to go out because I'm going to be here for the next week and a half. I'm not coming home until like July 26th. I thought it was the 25th. It's actually the 26th. So it's going to be a long time before I'm back. So I figured, what the fuck, I might as well knock this out of the way now, watch it, review it, and it was good. It was well worth the time. So thank you guys for the support of the channel. Like I said, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We actually surpassed the 3,000 subscriber mark days ago, like earlier this month, but I'm waiting to do like more of a video on it. hopefully in the next couple days or so. But I will put up a video thanking you guys for 3,000 subscribers. Really appreciate the support. On that note, guys, have a great one, and I'll catch your ass down the road and across the pond from here in London.